Hi, I'm Reema, and I'm back with Marivi. Today we're talking about health. So, are there any tips that you would like to share with everyone?
So yeah, if your goal is health, first of all, it would be really good for you as a start to be clear on what does being healthy even mean to you. So for example, does it mean the absence of symptoms or disease? As depending on how you define it, that's what's going to determine what you end up focusing on. So for me, I like to see it not so much as just the presence or absence of symptoms, and that's a whole other talk for another time, but I see it as your body's ability to adapt with whatever you may be experiencing. So in other words, your resilience. So to affect health from that perspective, it's about focusing on what affects the function of a healthy cell. So that's what I would see as a starting point.
That's actually very interesting, and I think that makes a lot of sense.
So one of the things that I would look at first is what you eat and to be mindful of what you're eating.
Yeah, I think food is a biggie, and I think most of us can feel very overwhelmed with it at times, especially with all the information that's out there.
Yeah, it can get quite confusing for sure. So I like to keep things as simple as possible. So what I typically start with, or what I like to start with, is to take a week and write down everything you eat. And I mean, like, don't leave anything out. Even if it's a piece of gum, write it down, right? So we can basically see what your habits are. And that's not to judge anything, but just so we can get a picture of what's going into your body. Then it's a good idea to get clear with what your goals are so a plan can get put in place, and then it's taking the steps to learn what's best to achieve those goals.
That's actually a really good idea because I think we tend to go into the judgment of the food.
Yeah, for sure. And that takes over, and then we kind of miss the point of basically understanding how the food actually relates to our cells, right?
Exactly.
So we need to, I always like to say, we need to take the good and the bad and the right and the wrong out of the picture.
Yeah.
So we can kind of move into a place where we're actually just learning about food.
Definitely.
Right?
Yep.
So and learning about ourselves. So the next thing I would look at is what you drink. So and to be mindful of what you're drinking. So for example, something like caffeinated drinks like teas, coffees, soft drinks, all of those types of drinks, beverages can be dehydrating, and they'll affect the health of your cells if we overdo it.
So, I mean, does that mean coffee, tea, and soft drinks, are they all bad for you?
No. So what I typically say is it's about the balance and being mindful again. I see a lot of people who aren't drinking enough water, and I'm talking about plain water, not the flavored stuff. But a healthy cell is a hydrated cell. And so the fact is that our bodies need water. There's lots of evidence that is out there to support that. So I sometimes say, imagine what would happen if you didn't flush your toilet for a week.
Yikes.
I know it's a bit graphic, but it gets the point across. So if you think about it, the same goes for our cells. So if we're consuming beverages that tend to dehydrate us, like the ones we mentioned, like the teas and coffees and pop, for example, just to name a few, then the health of our cells will be impacted. So if your goal is health, then what you are drinking plays an important factor.
So, how much water would you recommend we drink?
Well, that's a good question because most people kind of follow the recommendation of 8 glasses a day. I tend to factor in the person's body weight as well as their lifestyle habits, so it can vary. But as a general rule of thumb, I would be aiming for 1.5 to 2.5 liters a day. And if your habit is to consume a lot of caffeinated beverages, or if you're doing a lot of heavy duty cardio exercise, for example, then your body could need a bit more than that. So it really depends on the whole picture.
Yeah. Well, I think I definitely need to drink more water.
Yeah, I would say most of us, if we really were to measure it, we
Yeah.
all probably could do with a little bit more water.
Probably.
So the next thing is one that is pretty familiar to everyone, and that's exercise. And basically to be mindful of your movement. And like the saying goes, if you don't use it, you will lose it. So again, just take note, are you actively moving or not? And then the other thing I'll throw in there is how you are moving can also be an important thing to note.
Okay, so can you tell us more about the how?
So we all know about the benefits of exercise. We've gotten that far, but we don't always look at the types of exercises that we're doing and how that can actually be more helpful or not so helpful depending on our health. So for example, if you tend to be stressed or high strung, then something like a Tai Chi, a Qigong, or yoga might be more beneficial to support balance in the body's system.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I've done Tai Chi before and I found it to be very just calming.
Yeah, there's all kinds of different ways that we can exercise, and I think we've kind of generalized the whole thing, and we just think, okay, exercise is a good thing, so just do it.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing anything, yeah, doing something is better than nothing.
Exactly.
But yeah, you can fine tune and really kind of make it pertinent to your own self and what's going on in your own life. Mm-hmm. So we can move in all kinds of ways. And you can check out a video on this page where there are some basic movements you can do to support your spine and your spinal health. And simple activities like going for a walk or something like dancing, which has actually been stated as one of the highest forms of yoga, believe it or not. Those are just some simple things you can do.
That's great. That's really good. So are there any other tips you have?
Yeah, I've got a few more here. So another one would be rest. And you want to ask yourself, are you getting adequate rest? What is it? What's your energy like when you wake up? So because you can sleep and still wake up unrested. And healthy cells are relaxed cells. So you can check out the video on relaxation if you want to give your cells a chance to relax. Let me see, what else is there? Oh yeah, another biggie would be to be mindful of your thoughts, your thinking.
Yeah, I think it can be just easy to get caught up in your own thoughts and not be able to let go of them, especially while we're all at home right now.
Yeah, that definitely can create that experience for sure. So it's easy to get caught in habits of thinking that can affect whether our cells are going to be in a stress state or a relaxed state. So one of the things we can do is to become mindful of our thinking habits. And if health is your goal, then to line your actions up with your goal, then there's a lot you can do to learn how to change these thinking habits to ones that will contribute more to your health. So here's a challenge for you I'll throw out there. Are you in a habit of complaining?
That's very interesting food for thought. I'll have to pay more attention to that one for sure.
So, yeah, it's a biggie. And I would, if you really want to challenge it, challenge yourself with, are you doing that mentally or verbally? And see if you can actually, how long you can go through a day or whatever without complaining. So,
yeah, it's very
it's
good.
an interesting exercise. So the last tip I would share is one that often gets forgotten, but if you think about it, it's a pretty important one. So can you guess what that would be?
Let me see. Well, you've actually covered a lot. So in this moment, I actually can't really think of what it could be. So what is it?
It is, dun, 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 it's our breath. It's really interesting because I've taught different classes and workshops on all of this stuff, and consistently, this is the one thing that always gets left out. And if you think about it, it's the one thing that we can't do without.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so a healthy cell needs oxygen to function, which we access through the breath. So if health is your goal, there's a lot you can learn when it comes to the breath. So there's a video, I believe, on breathing on this page as well. So you can basically check it out if you want. And you can learn how to breathe effectively and what that means. And also there's a breathing technique on there that can also help with health and relaxation.
Great. You've given us a lot to think about in terms of our health, and just simple things that we can be mindful of, and the role we play in our own health. We've got an opportunity to think about that. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome.